Okay, so here's the next question. I'd like to know, have you had a glass of wine yet?
We've been waiting for you.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. Of course, the most important thing about a toast of a glass of wine
is to look at the eyes.
Look in the eyes.
That's right.
So now that we're drunk, here's the question, right? How can people sort out their expectations so that when they're hiring a matchmaker, they have the very best chance of finding a happy relationship?
We usually start with, it's actually the last 3 questions on a questionnaire that they've filled out to inform our first meeting.
Okay.
And that question says, what are your goals and expectations for this meeting? I would say more often than not, the goals and expectations blur between what they're hoping for the meeting and what they're looking for the rest of their lives.
Okay.
And so as soon as you've got the word expectations and goals right there in front of you on a piece of paper, we can begin to sort out together why the goal of my problem is not meeting men, my problem is not second dates, my problem is not long-term relationships, my problem is, all things that are not your problem. My problem is I just can't find the right person.
Okay.
So I'm here because I want to find the right person.
But I'm curious though, outside of a form, because I would imagine the form is very helpful, but when you are going to the matchmaker, what can you do to help manage that level of expectation?
One of the things that I usually recommend for my clients is to take that list, and everybody has a list. We know everybody has a list, even if they say they don't. The problem is some of those lists are the size of the Bible King James Version. And so I recommend that they go through the list, but go through it by process of elimination and eliminate the negotiables. What's really important to you? And so other than things like she needs to be a 34 double D,
right?
What's the non-negotiable? What are your goals? Like Peggy said, what are your goals? Will you negotiate on how many children you're going to have? Probably not. Do you want children? Do you want marriage? Those are usually not necessarily. And the other thing is, once usually I start talking to the clients, and we talk about them, and what usually I find out, and to the surprise of my clients, we find out at the end, is that what they want is not what they say they want.
Right.
Because it takes a long conversation and getting to know somebody. And I treat it almost like a dating coaching session, as Peggy said, to get to the goal. Because a lot of people will come in and say, well, I want a relationship. So one of the things that I usually say to them is, tell me what a relationship is, because it could be different from me to you to you. The definition of relationship is so broad that these days we can assume we know what our clients want. And so I ask them flat out, let's figure out together and define relationship. At what point will you be happy? Living together, married, do you need that piece of paper? Will you be perfectly happy just traveling together? Everybody has a different concept. And once we define that, we can move towards it.
Okay. Yeah, this is very clever to have a particular list and then help them to divide between those non-negotiables. But once you have the remaining list, or should I say that remaining 10, how would I, the prospective client, know what's a need versus a want?
Well, I really focus on your needs, not so much the wants, because the wants is like, I want to have an expensive car, and then you buy it and then you're broke. Like that doesn't make any sense.
But you have a cool car.
Need. Right? But so I always talk to people, like, take an assessment of your life right now. What are your goals going forward? I mean, if you're not planning to have children and you're in your 50s, do you really need to date someone who's in that childbearing, years? I mean, it's just going to complicate your life a little bit more. So really focus on, what do I want to be doing? Am I an empty nester? Or are you going to have kids, or whatever the case may be? So focus definitely on the needs, because I think the wants, you're not going to find the perfect person. There's no such thing out there. Nobody's perfect.
Really?
It's just going to be who's perfect for you, and how much can you tolerate, and are you willing to put work into this relationship once you make that commitment?
So let's break this down, right? Yeah. Because I know that a lot of ladies that come to me, the first question on this list is, hey, Paul, I need a man who is at least 6 feet tall.
Oh, I don't get those at all. No. I'm kidding.
I was going to say, you get it all the time. So is that a want or is that a need?
Exactly.
Because I've heard it broken down like, hey, Paul,
and then
I'm
they're
6 feet.
5'4".
Or they'll say, hey, I'm 5'10". I like to wear my heels. I want to feel you know, that my man is masculine. So is that a need or a want?
Okay, so that's a little bit different. I mean, usually you get the 6 foot tall request and the person's 5'1".
Right.
And it's like, why do you need a guy who's 6 feet tall? And, you know, depending on where you are geographically, it's very hard to find tall men. So.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's, or you need a man with a lot of money. He's got to make, you know, $1 million a year. Like, why? Why do you need that? And
Well, that depends on your
what makes you
rent.
think that you have the pick of the litter, too?
Right. All right. As you can see, we just had a tough conversation, and it's tough to determine what your expectations are when you're going to a matchmaker. But ultimately, you want to ask yourself, was it a characteristic that impacted you negatively or positively? And if it impacts you negatively, it's a need.